Action. Hello. Hey, it's Troy.
And Kyle.
And Kyle. We're here today to talk to you about we're going to go through the full shoulder stretching workout. Won't be long. Stay with us. Anything at the end that we're going to talk about that would force these guys to stick around?
I'm sure we'll come up with something.
A little discussion about water stretching that he'll throw in there. So
true.
Stay tuned
That's
for that.
true. Yep.
That's
That's
an
true.
interesting
Yep.
one.
Yep.
But yeah, here's a routine to stretch the shoulders. All right? Full stretch of the entire shoulder.
And remember, as adaptive athletes, we're using our shoulders for basically every activity, even in our day-to-day life, crutches, wheelchair. But whether we're doing a wheelchair sport, lacrosse, softball, basketball, sled hockey, we're always using the shoulder muscles, rotator cuff. We want to work them out to strengthen them, but we also want to keep them loose. So you can do this before the activity, before the practice, before the competition, do them after, do them before, after your workouts. Just a couple of quick, simple ones. First one is just shoulder flexion, crutch, broomstick, whatever you got. It can do it standing, but for me, it's a heck of a lot simpler just to do laying down. And all you're doing is just stretching the shoulders out. Try not to break anything above you. And of course, with the stretch, you don't go to the point of pain. You just go to where you feel the stretch. Hold it for 5, 6, 10 seconds. Relax. And Troy, what would you say? How many to do? 10?
I would
6?
I was gonna say typically, again, there's about 100 different ways to do stretching. I feel like I'm not even in the screen here.
Yeah, but we can hear you.
There's a million different ways to do stretches, basically. Generally, I recommend a 8 to 10 second hold, something in that zone. Take it to that point of like you're on the edge of pain. If you went any further, you'd cause pain. But the reason that you have pain there is because that's the muscle contracting. So we don't want to contract the muscle we're trying to stretch. But yeah, 3 to 5 rounds of 8 to 10 seconds is my standard recommendation. You can go a little longer, a little shorter, but there's a million different ways, and we'll probably have to talk about that if we get any questions on it, if people want to know other stretching techniques.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I just realized that I haven't been doing enough of these.
How about that?
Yeah.
So
that stretch does feel good. So
yeah, it's a great stretch for that entire shoulder girdle, the whole thing.
the rotator cuff, everything. Shoulder flexion. And the only reason you use something here is to keep them equal. Just makes it a little easier. And then next one, a lot of folks will call it pendulum. I don't know. You can do the standing, bent over, holding on to something. I have decided over the course of teaching this to my patients, as a matter of fact, from a physician assistant standpoint, I call it the elephant trunk because it looks like an elephant using their trunk to me. Good warm up, so you can go back and forth. You want to get it going in all directions. Pendulum, I like the elephant trunk, so you'll get it going, rotating, coming back, and of course, both arms. But just loosening up that shoulder, the rotator cuff tendons, nice little stretch. So.
And the thing on this would be called dynamic stretching because it's moving. The other one that we showed was static stretching, and most of the time we're looking at static stretches. But pre-workout or pre-sport, you want to do more dynamic stretches to really warm that muscle up.
The proverbial loosening up before you go out.
Yeah, exactly. And we used to do static stretches as the warm-up.
Right.
And then, of course, time proved that was not the best idea.
Yeah. And that's why I have 40 years of experience in genius. I have no other term to use, but I've learned so much from this man, even before I lost my leg. And
can you see why I have him on the podcast? Talks nice about me, says nice things.
Yeah.
But really, seriously though, we used to all be told you have to do static stretching before you perform your sport. And over time, research would show that just really isn't the best option. So you do more of a dynamic stretching and then put the static in at the end, seems to produce the best results.
And of course, we are talking a lot of shoulder for adaptive athletes, but this is going to work for any of your able-bodied friends as well that you may work out with, train with. For example, in our wheelchair lacrosse, we have able-bodied athletes, able-bodied lacrosse players that play with us. They're down in their chair, great lacrosse players, not so great in the chair, but these are great stretches for them. And as college lacrosse players, they do them before their practices and workouts. So adaptive athletes, we use our shoulders and arms much more than a regular athlete, because everything we do, we're propelling ourselves with our arms. So we need to focus more on the strengthening, the stretching, the protection of our shoulders and arms. Next stretch is more of a pectoralis major, a pec stretch, but also gets into the shoulder. So you're just putting your hand flat against a surface and you're not necessarily torquing the shoulder. All you have to do is turn away and you'll feel the stretch.
The cool thing on this is one of my favorite stretches, and it's in my rounded shoulder book, by the way. But the cool thing is you'll feel it in the fingers generally first, then it goes into the forearm, then eventually it may take you a few days even of stretching on this. It gets into the bicep, then it gets into the anterior delt, then it gets into the chest, then eventually it actually starts getting into the neck and even down the back, which makes no sense when you look at the stretch, but it comes down the back as well. So it's pretty interesting. But most people may recognize a version of this stretch from their swimming days, or maybe they knew people that were swimmers and they would put their arm right up against this and really twist.
Yeah.
Of course, we had Kyle's head in my way, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
But you really would put that arm right up against the wall basically and turn the whole body. And yeah, or you would see people do this as well. They pull their arms behind them and they do that whole thing.
Yeah.
Now that's one thing if you've been doing it your whole life. If you started out as a kid and you were doing that, probably it's okay because you haven't ever been injured by that. But if you, as a stiff-shouldered person who's just been generally active, start to put that in, you're going to have shoulder issues, absolutely. Same with any other stretch. If you haven't been doing that and you take it to an extreme level, you're going to have problems. So let's avoid that. In this particular stretch, it works just as well as this one. It doesn't seem like it would, 100% does. One of my favorite stretches.
Keep it simple, keep it safe, and exactly what Troy was talking about, that this is considered a pec stretch, but exactly what he was saying, it works out into the wrist, the forearm, the upper arm, into the chest, even into the neck and the back. So it's a very simple, effective stretch for the entire upper arm and upper torso, which is exactly what we as adaptive athletes are using all day, every day, for training, competitions, tournaments, etc. Now, Troy brought up the swimming, which I've gotten into a lot of swimming, both training for pool races or pool competition, but also open water. So I'm swimming up to a mile and a quarter a couple of times a week. That I will get in the pool, and one of the first things I do is I will start doing the pendulum or the elephant trunk under the water, because of course, as a lower limb amputee, I'm swimming more with my arms than anything else. Got one leg to kick with. It's not going to work very well. So to help really protect the shoulders from any tendonitis or tears, I'm in the water, under the water even, holding my breath, and just, I get the arms going. You know, so I'm doing the pendulum, doing the elephant trunk, maybe underwater, I'm using my flipper, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a great warm-up before I start swimming. And Troy was talking about, and he's worked with a lot of swimmers, so the stretch against, you know, with your hand against the wall, a pec stretch, but also just in the water, warming up the shoulders before you swim, whether it's 50 meters or a mile, and then stretch them out afterwards too.
All right. Anything else you got for us, Kyle?
Right now, I think the bottom line is just remember, adaptive athletes, we're always using our arms and shoulders. Got to strengthen them, but since we're using them all the time, we also need to stretch them out. These are just a couple easy, simple stretches. The flexion, the pendulum to warm it up and to stretch it, and then the hand against the wall, hand against something, the pec stretch that's actually, we shouldn't even call it a pectoralis major stretch because it's an entire upper arm, upper torso stretch.
It really is. Yeah, it's not targeting that one specific muscle. One thing I did want to add on that is if for some reason, well, number one, you don't want to lean into the wall, pole, whatever it might be. It's not a lean into it. It's not a lean away from it. You're just letting the wall or the pole in this case hold your arm up. That's number one. Number two, you can still get away with a bent arm and then turn away. Same turn. You're not trying to turn the body. You're trying to turn just the head. And that'll get it as well. Some people, for one reason or another, cannot keep their arm totally straight. That is a great alternative that still gets the majority of that shoulder that we were trying to get. So
Particularly as Troy was saying, your hand isn't really pushing against the wall or post. It's just touching it, lightly touching it. And then arm straight and, not up here, not down here, basically level with the
straight
shoulder.
out, yeah.
Straight out, and just an easy turn. Hold for 8-10 seconds, maybe 3 or 4 of them. And before competition, before training, every day, because we do use our arms and shoulders every day.
For sure. I would do all my stretches daily. Absolutely. It might only be one time a day, but you could surely do it in the morning and at night. But again, don't get out of bed all cold and stiff and then do static stretches. At a minimum, warm things up, however that is that you can warm the body up. Do your static stretching at that point. But definitely before your sport, dynamic stretches are going to be the best choice.
And the dynamic was
the movement.
The movement.
Moving
So
stretches.
like the pendulum, and then the static is static. You're holding it in place.
Yep. So I always like to say get strong, stay fit. But in this case, we want to be flexible as well. So
Definitely. Yeah. Hey, appreciate you looking in. Don't forget to subscribe. It's always free. Share it. Share it with your fellow athletes. Like it. Comments. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know other stretches you may do. This is just a short, quick, simple one. Maybe a couple minutes. Leave us questions. Leave us comments. Let us know how we're doing, and we appreciate you. Thank you.